of insights we can draw from it. So one of the things I love most in life is when a plan comes together. And part of that is getting people over the hump or getting them out of a funk or getting them unstuck. Usually that is in an organization. The personal stuff isn't quite as much fun as, having an organizational win for me. But I learned about this book about 15 years ago when I was working in Chicago for an ad agency on the Navistar account. And so that's like international truck, if you're familiar with trucking. And their marketing team read the book. And I just thought it was a really interesting way to think about a system to get you over the hump or out of something that you're stuck with. So this book is by a pair, Keith Yamashita and Sandra Spataro. And Keith started a design, we'll call it a design thinking agency called SY Partners, who's still around. You can find Keith on TED Talks and as a speaker on a lot of different things. And I think he has a lot of insight. So I thought we'd start out today by just hearing a little bit from him so that we can think about who's speaking to us.
So one of the things that we find in our practice is that managers are defined by the knowledge they know. Leaders are defined by the questions that they're willing to ask. So great leadership is about exploring things you don't know and exploring new areas that you don't know. And we find actually great companies depend on constantly being curious about things you don't know and being willing to challenge the status quo to become great. What's interesting about what we do for a living, and I think what great designers and what great CEOs have in common, is you have to inquire about the status quo. You have to push things. And this requires that you think. And what's interesting is thinking is the greatest gift that we have as leaders, but we use it so little in our day-to-day work that the pace of the world has become so quick and so fast that it has devalued what thinking's about. And what we're about is kind of reconnecting people to the thoughtful work of who are you, what is your enduring character, what do you need to live up to that character to be a great company. One of the things that I've been exploring is the relationship between great CEOs and great designers. And it turns out that CEOs, I think, are the best designers. And what do I mean by that? So CEOs have to deal with ambiguity. They have to chart a path forward. They have to help you imagine something that doesn't yet exist. They have to be very grounded in reality, and they have to take things step by step. And if you look at those 5 traits, the job of the CEO and the job of the designer is almost identical. And so what I've been studying is what is the mindset of the CEO, and why is it that he or she can be a great shepherd of the future of their organization? And when you pair that CEO with a designer, what they can do together that very few other pairings can do. Design thinking is a great term for what I think is a very human act, which is imagining something that doesn't exist yet, and then using the power of design to assemble all of the things, all of the resources you need to make it a reality. And then we find that great design is equal parts courage, equal parts challenging the status quo, and equal parts imagination. And when you get those 3 things right, that's what you, as a leader, that's when you do remarkable things on the planet.
Okay, now today's session was really intended to be the appetizer and just a short period of time to get you thinking. And so next time, we're gonna go more into diagnosing why you're stuck. And here we're gonna look at the serious 7, and there are 7 different symptoms that the authors point out. Next time, we're going to talk about being overwhelmed and exhausted. Then we'll hit directionless, hopeless, and battle-torn in session 3, and then worthless and alone in the 4th session.